I'm 37 years old, and my name is Megan. Although things haven't always gone as planned, I've been able to provide my kid and myself with a steady existence. I can still clearly recall the day I saw those texts on Derek's phone after my marriage ended. The startle, the treachery, the emptiness I experienced as I faced him. He made no effort to refute it. All things considered, our divorce was remarkably amicable. Derek left me a good portion of our savings and our flat entirely, with no mortgage, thank God. He also provides our son Ethan with a considerable amount of alimony. We were financially comfortable between it and my work at a marketing company. This year, Ethan, who is now 6, began first grade. He's an energetic kid, always running, jumping, asking questions. Sometimes I look at him and see glimpses of Derek, especially in his smile, but mostly I see a bright little boy who deserves the world. "Mom, can I have dinosaur nuggets for dinner?" Ethan asked, tugging at my sleeve as I checked my email. Another message from my brother Jason, asking if I could help with their rent this month. "Sure, buddy." "Go wash your hands first," I said, already calculating how much I could spare for Jason and his wife, Amber. My family situation is complicated. I've always been the responsible one, the one everyone turns to when they need help. Every month, I send $1,800 to my parents to help with their mortgage. I also regularly help Jason and Amber, who got married last year and are always struggling to make ends meet in their rented apartment. "Megan, I hate to ask, but we're short again this month," Jason had said on the phone last week. Amber's car needed repairs, and with the rent increase, I sighed and transferred him $500 like I always do. Family helps family, right? That's what I was raised to believe, even if it stretches me thin sometimes. I manage. The only thing that really bothers me is how my parents treat Ethan. From the moment he was born, my mother made it clear she wanted no part in childcare. I still remember her words at the hospital when she first saw him. "He's adorable, Megan, but don't expect me to babysit." "I'm too old for that kind of stress," she said, barely holding him for a minute before handing him back. Derek and I were both working then, so we hired a babysitter and I went part-time for 3 years. When Ethan started kindergarten, our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, offered to watch him after school until one of us got home from work. I paid her a small amount, and it worked out well for everyone. After the divorce, Mrs. Peterson became even more important. My parents continued to refuse to watch Ethan, even just for a few hours. "Don't you love your grandson?" I once asked my mother carefully. "Of course we love him," she replied, sounding offended. "We're just too old to chase after a young child. You understand, don't you?" I didn't understand. Not really. My parents are in their 60s, not exactly ancient, but I stopped bringing it up and continued relying on Mrs. Peterson's help. As Mother's Day approached this year, I bought a beautiful scarf for my mom, and Ethan made her a colorful handmade card. We were planning to attend the family dinner at my parents' house, and Ethan was excited to give his grandmother his gift. "Do you think Grandma will like my card?" he asked, carefully adding more glitter to it. "She'll love it, honey," I assured him, though a part of me wondered if she would. The day before Mother's Day, my phone rang. It was my mom. "Megan, dear, about tomorrow." She started, her voice cautious. "We'll be there around 4. Is that okay?" There was a pause. "Well, that's the thing. I was hoping it might be better if Ethan didn't come." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Why not? He's just so active, sweetie. He'll be bored with all the adults, and you know how he gets when he's bored running around, making noise. It's supposed to be a relaxing celebration." "Mom, he's 6. "Yes, he's energetic, but he won't bother anyone. He's been looking forward to giving you his gift. I'm sure it's lovely, but please understand, it would be better if it was just adults tomorrow. You can bring his gift, of course." I hung up the phone, stunned and hurt. When I turned around, Ethan was standing in the doorway, his little face crumpled. "Grandma doesn't want me to come?" he asked in a small voice. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I'd spent years making excuses for my parents. Years sending them money and helping them out while they couldn't be bothered to show the slightest interest in my son. Change of plans, buddy, I said, pulling him into a hug. We're going to have our own special Mother's Day celebration tomorrow, just you and me. I called a courier service, packaged up both our gifts, and had them delivered to my mother's house. Then I sent her a text. Won't be attending tomorrow. Gifts on the way. Happy Mother's Day. Her reply came quickly. That's fine, dear. Thank you for the gifts. No apology. No concern. Just acknowledgement of the gifts. A few hours after sending my text to Mom, my phone pinged with a notification. Amber had posted photos and a video from the Mother's Day celebration I'd skipped. Curious, I tapped on the video. There was my family gathered around the dining table: Mom, Dad, Jason, and Amber. Amber stood up, glass in hand, her face glowing with excitement. She announced she was pregnant and would have a baby in about 8 months. Everyone erupted in tears. But what truly stunned me was my mother's reaction. Mom burst into tears of joy, hugging Amber tightly. I'm going to be a grandmother again. I'll help you with everything: doctor's appointments, baby clothes, whatever you need. I can't wait to babysit. I watched the video twice, trying to process what I'd heard. This was the same woman who had told me she was too old to look after Ethan, who had never once offered to babysit for me, who had literally banned my son from her Mother's Day celebration. Yet here she was, volunteering to help with a baby that wasn't even born yet. The unfairness of it burned in my throat. I closed the app and put my phone away, determined not to let it ruin the day with Ethan. We made pancakes together, went to the park, and watched his favorite movies. He didn't mention his grandmother again, and I was grateful for that small mercy. In the weeks that followed, I distanced myself from my parents without making a big announcement about it. I still sent their monthly mortgage payment and helped Jason when he asked, but I made excuses to avoid family gatherings. Nobody seemed to notice my absence much. They only called when they needed something. The property tax bill is higher this year, Mom would say, not even bothering with hello. Or Jason would text, can you spot us for the security deposit on a new apartment? We'll pay you back. I always came through, even though the constant requests were becoming more stressful. Summer turned to fall, and fall gave way to winter. Mrs. Peterson, my elderly neighbor who'd been helping with Ethan after school, announced she would be visiting her daughter for a month. I arranged with my boss to work half shifts so I could pick up Ethan myself. Then disaster struck. I was rushing to a meeting one icy December morning when I slipped on some black ice outside my building. The pain was immediate and blinding. A passing couple helped me, calling an ambulance when it became clear I couldn't stand. At the hospital, the doctor confirmed what I'd feared: a broken leg that would need a cast for at least 6 weeks. As I lay in the hospital bed, my thoughts immediately went to Ethan. He was at school now, expecting me to pick him up in a few hours. With Mrs. Peterson away and me unable to drive, I had no choice but to call my parents. Mom, I need your help, I began, explaining the situation. The silence on the other end of the line spoke volumes. Finally, she responded with obvious reluctance. Have you called that neighbor of yours? She's out of town, Mom. I wouldn't ask if I had any other option. Ethan needs to be picked up from school at 3:15. After more sighing and muttering, she agreed to pick him up and stay at my apartment until I got home. The relief I felt was tempered by her obvious annoyance. A friend drove me home from the hospital later that evening. I hobbled into my apartment on crutches to find Ethan playing a video game while my mother sat on the couch scrolling through her phone with a sour expression. Your son is very active, she said by way of greeting. He wouldn't sit still for 5 minutes, and I didn't know what to make for dinner. I noticed there were no dishes in the sink, no sign that she'd attempted to feed either of them. Thanks for staying with him, Mom. She was already gathering her coat and purse. I need to get home. Your father is waiting dinner on me. She left without offering to help further, without asking if I needed anything, without even saying goodbye to Ethan. After ordering delivery for dinner, I called my boss to explain the situation. He was understanding, agreeing I could work from home when possible. But there was still the issue of getting Ethan to and from school every day. The next morning, I swallowed my pride and called my mother again. Mom, I hate to ask, but I really need your help. Is there any way you could take Ethan to school and pick him up for the next month, just until I can drive again? Her response was immediate and harsh. Absolutely not, Megan. I am not a chauffeur or a babysitter. You have money. Hire someone. Mom, please. I'm in a really tough spot here. That's not my problem, she interrupted. You chose to have a child. He's your responsibility, not mine. After she hung up, I sat in stunned silence. I'd been sending her $1,800 every month for years, helping her pay her mortgage, never asking for anything in return. Except this one time, when I genuinely needed help. With trembling fingers, I called Jason, hoping my brother might offer some assistance. Maybe Amber could help since she was on vacation. Jason, I'm in a bind. I broke my leg and I need someone to take Ethan to and from school for a few weeks. I know Amber's off work. That's not going to work, Meg. He cut me off. Amber's resting, because of the baby. Before I could respond, I heard rustling and then Amber's voice came on the line. Megan, I'm 5 months pregnant. I need to take care of myself right now. We're also leaving for our baby moon vacation in 2 days. I can't be running around after your kid. The call ended, and I sat there, crutches propped against the wall, feeling more alone than I had since my divorce. For years, I'd been the family bank, the reliable one, the one who never said no. And now, when I needed them most, they couldn't spare even a moment to help me. That afternoon, I called my friend Lisa and explained my situation through tears of frustration. I don't know what to do about Ethan's school. I can't drive with this cast. Lisa was quiet for a moment. I know someone who might be able to help. Her name is Valerie. She's a retired teacher who does child care part-time. Let me text you her number. Within an hour, Valerie was at my apartment. She was in her early 60s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. Unlike my mother, she immediately connected with Ethan, asking him about school and his favorite subjects. They bonded over a shared love of dinosaurs while I watched, amazed at how easy she made it look. We worked out an arrangement. Valerie would take Ethan to school in the mornings and bring him home afterward. She'd stay with him until I finished my remote work for the day. The rate was steep, but I had little choice. After Valerie left, promising to return in the morning, I sat alone on my couch, my broken leg propped up on pillows. Something had shifted inside me. For years, I'd operated on the belief that family should help family. I drained my savings, stretched myself thin, all to support people who clearly didn't value me or my son. I reached for my phone and opened my banking app. With a few taps, I canceled the recurring $1,800 payment to my parents. Then I took a screenshot of the cancellation confirmation and sent it to my mother with a message. I will no longer be helping with your mortgage payments. I also won't be providing any more financial assistance to Jason and Amber. I've supported this family for years, and when I needed help for once, you all refused. This arrangement is over. I set my phone down, feeling both terrified and liberated. Within minutes, it began ringing. My mother, then my father, then Jason. I ignored them all. The text messages started flowing in, each more desperate and angry than the last. Megan, what is wrong with you? Our mortgage payment is due next week, my mother wrote. I'm so disappointed in you. This is not how we raised you to behave, came my father's message. Jason was more direct. What the hell, Megan? You're really going to do this to your own family? Amber's message was the most revealing. We've had to cancel our vacation because of you. Do you know how much I needed this trip before the baby comes? I turned off my phone and went to bed early, emotionally exhausted but strangely at peace. For the first time in years, I was putting myself and Ethan first. The next few days settled into a new routine. Valerie arrived each morning, cheerful and dependable. She took Ethan to school and brought him home, sometimes stopping for ice cream or a trip to the park. He seemed happier than I'd seen him in a long time, chattering about his day when I finished work. My family, meanwhile, escalated their campaign. I had dozens of missed calls and messages. I blocked their numbers, but they started calling from unknown numbers. My father even called my workplace, but my boss, now aware of my situation, refused to put him through. A week passed. Then two. The date of my parents' mortgage payment came and went. I felt a twinge of guilt, quickly followed by resolve. They had options. They could downsize, get part-time jobs, or ask Jason to contribute for once. One afternoon, while I was on a video call with work, there was a loud pounding on my door. Ethan was at school with Valerie, so I muted my microphone and hobbled to check who it was. Through the peephole, I saw my parents, Jason, and Amber standing in the hallway, looking furious. "Megan, open this door right now," my father shouted. "We know you're in there." I stepped back, heart racing. "I'm not opening the door," I called through it. "Please leave." "You're being incredibly selfish," my mother hissed. "We might lose our house because of you." "And what about our baby?" Amber chimed in, her voice cracking dramatically. "Your own niece will grow up in poverty because you're being so heartless." "I've supported this family for years," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've sent you thousands of dollars every month, while you couldn't even be bothered to look after Ethan for one afternoon. I'm done being used." "Your son is difficult to handle," my mother snapped. "He's too active, too demanding. Don't you dare blame this on a 6-year-old child." I interrupted, anger flaring hot in my chest. "Ethan is a normal, energetic boy who you've never made any effort to know or love. And now I find out you're excited to babysit Amber's baby?" The hypocrisy is astounding. They continued shouting and pounding on the door until I threatened to call the police. Eventually, they left, but not before promising this wasn't over. The harassment continued. They created new email addresses when I blocked the old ones. They sent messages through mutual friends. It was exhausting, and I began to wonder if I'd ever be free of them. The breaking point came a few weeks later. I was having lunch with my boss Martin and venting about the ongoing situation. "It's like they see me as nothing but an ATM," I said, picking at my salad. "I don't think they're ever going to stop." Martin was quiet for a moment, then leaned forward. "You know, we've been planning to open a branch office in Colorado. The team there needs someone with your experience to head up marketing. It would mean relocating, but it might be exactly what you and Ethan need right now, a fresh start." That night, after Ethan was asleep, I did some research on Boulder, Colorado. Beautiful mountains, outdoor activities, good schools, a vibrant community. The more I read, the more it felt like an escape hatch had opened up in the ceiling of my life. The next day, I contacted a realtor about selling my apartment. I decided to keep everything quiet, no announcements, no goodbyes to my family. As my leg healed and the cast came off, I focused on preparing for our new life. The apartment sold quickly, above asking price. I arranged for movers, enrolled Ethan in his new school, and found a temporary rental in Boulder until we could buy a place. 6 weeks after Martin's offer, Ethan and I boarded a plane to Colorado, leaving behind the only city he'd ever known. As we fastened our seatbelts, he looked at me with wide eyes. "Are Grandma and Grandpa going to visit us in our new house?" he asked innocently. I squeezed his hand. "No, buddy. We're going to make a fresh start, just the two of us. And maybe get a dog. Would you like that?" His face lit up at the mention of a dog. And just like that, his grandparents were forgotten. As the plane took off, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. I was leaving behind my entire support system, but also the people who had taken advantage of me for years. Our first few months in Boulder were like living in a different world. We settled into a nice rental apartment while I looked for a permanent home to buy. Ethan adapted quickly to his new school, making friends and thriving in the outdoorsy Colorado lifestyle. I threw myself into my new position, grateful for colleagues who knew nothing about my family drama. We got that dog I promised Ethan, a golden retriever rescue we named Rocky. On weekends, the three of us explored hiking trails or visited local parks. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe freely. I maintained my digital barricade against my family, but occasionally I'd get updates through mutual friends. My parents had downsized to a smaller house they could afford without my help. Jason had finally taken a second job to support Amber and their newborn daughter. For months after our move, I found the perfect house, a 3-bedroom with a fenced yard for Rocky and a view of the mountains. We moved in just as spring was arriving in Colorado, planting a garden and painting Ethan's room the bright green he'd been begging for. Then one evening, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize but had a familiar area code from back home. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Megan, it's Aunt Carol." I relaxed slightly. Aunt Carol was my mother's sister, but we'd always gotten along well. She'd been kind to Ethan on the few occasions they'd met. "Hi, Aunt Carol. How are you?" "I'm well, dear. Listen, your parents came by my place last week. They were quite upset. They went to your old apartment and found strangers living there. No one knew where you'd gone." I sighed. "I moved, Aunt Carol. I needed a fresh start. So I gathered. I'm not calling to pressure you, Megan. God knows your mother can be difficult. I just thought you should know, they're looking for you." After we hung up, I sat on my new porch swing, watching Ethan and Rocky play in the yard. I'd been so focused on escaping that I hadn't considered how my disappearance might affect others. Still, I wasn't ready to re-establish contact. 2 more months passed. Ethan finished first grade with excellent marks, and I received a performance bonus at work. We were planning a camping trip to celebrate both achievements when the doorbell rang one Saturday morning. When I opened the door, I nearly slammed it shut again from pure shock. My parents stood on my porch, looking older and more tired than I remembered. "How did you find me?" I demanded, not inviting them in. My father shuffled uncomfortably. "Derek told us." We begged him. Of course. I'd kept my ex-husband updated on our location for Ethan's sake. It hadn't occurred to me he might share that information with my parents. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping my voice low so Ethan wouldn't hear from the backyard. "Can we talk?" my mother asked, her voice softer than I was used to hearing. "Please." I glanced back at Ethan playing with Rocky. "Not here. There's a cafe across the street. I'll meet you there in 15 minutes. After arranging for my neighbor to watch Ethan, I walked to the cafe, steeling myself for whatever manipulation might be coming. My parents were already seated at an outdoor table, 2 untouched coffees in front of them. "You look well," my father said as I sat down. "I am well," I replied. "We both are. Ethan's thriving here." My mother cleared her throat. "Megan, we've come because, well, things have been difficult since you left." "I imagine they have been," I said evenly. "It's not easy when your personal ATM suddenly disappears." My father winced. "We deserve that. But we're not here to ask for money." "Then why are you here?" My mother leaned forward. "Jason's wife had their baby, a little girl named Emma. They're struggling financially. Jason took a second job, but it's barely covering their rent." I waited for the rest, for the ask that was surely coming. "We've realized some things," my father continued when my mother faltered. "How much we've taken you for granted. How poorly we've treated Ethan. We'd like to be real grandparents to him," my mother added quickly, "and to help you however we can." I laughed, unable to help myself. "Now you want to be grandparents? After years of rejecting him? After telling me he was too active, too difficult? Now that I've cut you off financially, suddenly you're interested in a relationship with my son." "It's not like that," my mother protested. "It's exactly like that," I countered. "You're here because you need something from me. Maybe it's not money this time, maybe it's forgiveness or absolution, or just the restoration of the family dynamic where I take care of everyone. But it's still about what you need, not what Ethan and I need." My father looked down at his coffee. "We've made mistakes, Megan." "Yes, you have. And I've made mine too, enabling you all these years. Teaching you that you could treat me and my son with complete disregard and still get my financial support. I stood up, suddenly tired of the conversation. I'm not interested in rebuilding a relationship that was never healthy to begin with. What about your brother? My mother asked desperately. His little girl, your niece. Jason made his choice when he refused to help me when I broke my leg. He and Amber made it clear where their priorities lie. I pushed my chair in. I wish them well, but they're not my responsibility. So that's it? My father asked. You're just cutting us out of your life forever? I paused, considering the question seriously. I don't know what forever looks like. But right now, Ethan and I are happy. We're building a good life here. I'm not willing to risk that by letting you back in not when your only interest in us seems to coincide with what you need from me. I left them sitting there and walked back home, where Ethan greeted me with a gap-toothed smile and a new trick he taught Rocky. As I watched them play, I felt a sense of certainty settle over me. The guilt I'd carried about abandoning my family was finally lifting. 2 months have passed since that meeting. My parents returned home without further confrontation. Jason sent one angry email, which I deleted without responding. Sometimes I worry for Emma, my niece. However, I also recall all of the holidays and birthdays when my parents were too lazy to take any interest in their grandchild. Ethan no longer inquires about his grandparents as often. Our lives have taken on new routines and customs. Ethan plays with classmates, and I've met pals at work. I occasionally reflect on how odd it is that I had to relocate more than 1,000 miles away in order to eventually set up sound limits. I'm concentrating on my son, our dog, our house, and my job for the time being. The household we have established for ourselves. Compact but sturdy. And it seems like enough for the first time in a long time.